Welcome to Matflix, video streaming from maternity experts. My name is Dr. Jenny Hall. I am the box sets curator at Matflix, a fellow of the Royal College of Midwives and a former editor of The Practicing Midwife. At Matflix, we bring together videos of talks from top maternity experts into box sets to support your continued professional development, study and revalidation. It is a perfect study accompaniment for midwives, maternity professionals, midwifery students and anyone thinking about a career in the maternity services. My job is bringing together the latest thinking area by area so you do not have to. Not only do you get the video of brilliant talks and relevant content in thematic box sets, you also get access to the audio version so you can listen on the commute or while you walk the dog. Plus links to the latest research in the relevant field, government policy documents, the presenter's PowerPoint and more besides. Sign up to Matflix now for the best video streaming from maternity experts.
It's always a pleasure to be here, and I always try as hard as I can to support this excellent platform that's so flexible, that's responsive, that's contemporary, that's in people's homes, in people's pockets and in people's hands, wherever they happen to be.
I'm Nicole Rajan Brown. I'm a proud midwife and I'm proud to be supporting the Maternity and Midwifery Forum, who have helped me to grow and for creating wonderful professional digital and online resources for midwives across the globe. The Maternity and Midwifery Forum ran their programmes free and online all through COVID. Now we want to grow the catalogue, spread it worldwide and keep it free to use for students and staff. To do this, we have launched a fundraising appeal to help keep all of the 8 wonderful maternity and midwifery festivals free. Keep the weekly Maternity and Midwifery Hour and the weekly newsletters free to midwives and maternity staff. You regularly tell us how much you value these free resources, so do give what you can.
Welcome to Matflix, video streaming from maternity experts. My name is Dr. Jenny Hall. I am the box set's curator at Matflix, a fellow of the Royal College of Midwives and a former editor of The Practicing Midwife. At Matflix, we bring together videos of talks from top maternity experts into box sets to support your continued professional development, study and revalidation. It is a perfect study accompaniment for midwives, maternity professionals, midwifery students and anyone thinking about a career in the maternity services. My job is bringing together the latest thinking area by area so you do not have to. Not only do you get the video of brilliant talks and relevant content in thematic box sets, you also get access to the audio version so you can listen on the commute or while you walk the dog. Plus links to the latest research in the relevant field, government policy documents, the presenter's PowerPoint and more besides. Sign up to Matflix now for the best video streaming from maternity experts.
It's always a pleasure to be here, and I always try as hard as I can to support this excellent platform that's so flexible, that's responsive, that's contemporary, that's in people's homes, in people's pockets and in people's hands, wherever they happen to be.
I'm Nicole Rajan Brown. I'm a proud midwife and I'm proud to be supporting the Maternity and Midwifery Forum.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Maternity and Midwifery Hour. This is Series 15, Session 1. My name's Sue MacDonald, and I'm the curator for the Maternity and Midwifery Hour and the Maternity and Midwifery Festivals. And it's my pleasure to be chairing the session today. And I've got two lovely guests. I've got Anne Remmers and I've got Laura Lewinson. And because we always do this to our guests, it's always fascinating. We always put them on the spot and ask them to share a moment of their week with us. So I'm going to start with Anne because she's laughing. So she must have a really good moment of the week. So welcome, Anne. Please share your moment.
Thank you so much, Sue. Well, I'm really into houseplants. I've just got more and more into houseplants since COVID. And I've got some really big ones now. I've got one called an alocasia, which is like got elephant ears, they call it. And this week it sent up a new leaf, and I've just watched it every day slowly come up and slowly unfurl until today it is fully open and standing proud. So that gave me a great deal of joy this week.
Oh. Wow, that's a lovely moment of the week. That's really feels like spring,
Yes.
even though it's not.
I know.
It's not a technical spring plant. I don't know. Is
It
it?
isn't, no, but I mean, house plants often don't, they don't do much growing in the winter. So, but this one's obviously very happy where he is, and
Wow.
yeah, there we go.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, houseplant mum. That's wonderful. Now, Laura, can you top that one? Welcome.
Oh, I don't think I can, and I was thinking maybe I should talk about my new fridge that I got that I was very excited about. A new very big fridge freezer. But I think that actually the thing that tops that, which is work related, is that I bumped into somebody that I looked after about a year ago in the supermarket, and we had a really nice chat, and she remembered lots of details about things that we had talked about, and her baby's now 1 year old, and he was there, so it was really nice to sort of see that kind of the other side, I guess, now that after she's had her baby. So I think that's
lovely. That is a lovely moment, because
Yeah.
I always have, well, I don't always have problems, but I don't always recognize people immediately. And you sort of see them and think, I know you from somewhere. And then you think, if you spent a long time with them, you remember better, obviously. But that's lovely to get that sort of feedback on a year-old baby. How wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing those two moments. Now I'm just going to just go through what I always do at this time, which is just to welcome our new people. I know we have a lot of regular participants, the Maternity Midwifery Hour. So you'll probably have heard this before. So you might want to have a quick sip of tea while I'm saying this, but we're reminded really that we're in our 5th year of the Maternity Midwifery Hour, and we were born through COVID. One of the good things about COVID, because obviously at that time, you remember the lockdown in March 2020, everything closed down. Though obviously hospitals and maternity units carried on because they had to provide care for women and babies and families, we couldn't go to conferences, study days, face-to-face activities, and we really wanted to provide something to help midwives and student midwives and people in the maternity services to connect with each other and also know what was going on. And at that time, we had a lot of material about COVID because we didn't know very much about it, and we were grappling with the difficulties and the scariness of it all. And so we had a lot of information about that. And also, and I always say this, but the thing that really I found wonderful was the way midwives and student midwives rose to the challenge, and services were changed, and it was difficult. And some of the things that people shared with us were so fantastic because it really showed what we can do when we put our minds to it. So I'm always very optimistic about the health service, and I know there's these words about NHS being broken. I don't think it's necessarily broken. It's been a little bit starved. But the practitioners, the midwives, the students, our colleagues, all of our colleagues within the service that make the service what it is, are fantastic and will do their very best for everybody. So good on you. And I'm going to say a big thank you to the NHS because I think it's marvellous. Wonderful. Okay. And I'm going to say now a little bit of news. Oh, no, I ought to remind people this is all recorded. So if you miss anything, if you have a power cut or you have to rush away, you will not miss a thing because you can catch up through Matflix. And that's on your little resources sheet. And you will notice you have a nice big resources sheet this week that Paul is sharing online. So make use of all the materials. You don't have to read everything, but it's quite irresistible. Some of these things are really good, so don't miss anything. Okay, now this week, a positive thing, new funding for 75 local authorities in England to support infant feeding and perinatal mental health, always things that we as midwives are concerned about. So that's a really good positive thing. The other really lovely thing, New Year's honours. Yes, it's the new year. I should have said Happy New Year to everybody. Happy New Year to you all. And I'll say a huge congratulations to Professor Sarah Kenyon, who's been made an MBE, and she's a professor of evidence-based maternity care, and she was awarded this for services to midwifery. And also Wendy Ansell, who has also been awarded an MBE for her work with survivors of female genital mutilation. So two very rewarded people, rightly rewarded. So well done to them. And the other thing that's out today, and some of you may have heard bits on the radio this morning, there's been a new report out, and again, the links are in your resource sheet. Equality at Work, Miscarriage and Bereavement Leave, and this is the second report of session 2024 to 2025. And I will say there's some really interesting and useful examples in the annex of women who shared their experiences of bereavement and loss and the impact it had on them and what would have helped them. And that's really useful. It sort of comes alive rather than being a dry report. Often these government reports can be a little bit dry, but they're made better by real people's stories. And one of the conclusions is a baby loss certificate is good, but it's not enough. And the whole process needs more statutory support. And they also said there was good progress by employers, but again, need more, especially to support women who lost babies before the 24 weeks. So miscarriage, molar pregnancy and ectopic pregnancy loss. So that's a very positive report. There's an executive summary as well, so you can catch up with that as you're going. I'm also going to do a shout out to London South Bank University and Professor Calvin Morley and the team who are celebrating the innovative Elevate programme, which I'm sure Anne and Laura know about, because it's about supporting midwives in especially those in the ethnic minorities or global majorities. I don't know what the I'm going to hear more about that anyway, but they're having a big celebration at London South Bank today. And that brings us, see, I'm gallopy here. We're coming to look at Black maternity matters. And I'm really so delighted to have our two speakers this evening, because they spoke at Bath Festival and they're really fantastic. And I felt when they were talking, we haven't got enough time. We need more. So I'm so pleased they can come to be with us this evening. So we have Anne Remmers, who is the Maternity and Neonatal Clinical Lead for Health Innovation West of England, very much focused on the delivery of the Regional National Maternity and Neonatal Safety Improvement Programme. She's obviously a midwife. She's worked in NHS trusts in Bristol and South West Maternity Clinical Network in very senior roles. And she's currently the midwifery lead for Black Maternity Matters, which is a collaboration supporting perinatal healthcare staff to reduce the inequitable maternity outcomes faced by Black mothers. And also together is Laura Lewinson, and she's had an interesting career also a midwife, following being a maternity champion for Bristol, North Somerset and South Gloucestershire. Laura Lewinson became a diversity and inclusion lead midwife for University Hospitals Bristol and Western, focusing on improving outcomes and experience for racially minoritized people accessing maternity care. And this fits very well with Laura's main passion of health equity. So welcome to Anne and Laura. The screen is now yours, and thank you so much for coming this evening.
Thank you, Sue, for that lovely introduction. Lovely, sort of start to our talk, really. We did enjoy coming to Bath, so we're really pleased to be able to come back again. So Laura and I are going to tell you a bit about the Black Maternity Matters story. We're going to start with, what it's all about, how it came about, what it is, what we're going to do next, what's been driving us. So throughout the presentation, you will hear more about Black Maternity Matters, and also there's a short video for you to watch as well in the middle of the presentation. So if we move on to the next slide, really, I wanted to stress that Black Maternity Matters is a collaborative, and it's a sum of its parts. It really is. And we have been working with some really incredible, amazing people during the last over 3 years now that we've been working on Black Maternity Matters. This is a picture of some of us at our celebration graduation event last November. We have a graduation event for everybody that comes through the programme. And just to tell you a little bit about them, so Katie is from BCOCO, which stands for Building Cohesive Communities, and she's one of our anti-racist educators. Sona is from Black Mothers Matter, which is a community group who support and celebrate Black pregnancies. And they've been absolutely amazing and really instrumental in the journey that we've been on. And Aisha from Representation Matters, who heads up this organisation called Representation Matters, which really looks at addressing anti-racist practice and promoting practices that challenge racism. We've also, that's our little logo for Health Innovation West of England. We also were very well supported by the Health Foundation in our pilot. And of course, without our NHS trusts and organisations and local maternity and neonatal systems, we wouldn't have a programme at all, because they've really embraced this and come on the Black Maternity Matters journey with us. So that's a little bit about the collaborative. We'll say a little bit more later on in a bit more detail. So if we go on to the next slide, we often talk about our sort of 3 C's, our collaboration, courage and compassion. And I think the courage is something that we all have to have within us in order to challenge racism. So to put yourself forward, to be on the programme, to learn, to unlearn things that you know you've just considered as the norm for so long. But it's also the courage of our educators to deliver the programme, and the courage of the organisations to trust in us, that to send their staff on 6-month programme was something that was really worthwhile. And just including this quote from Angela Davis here: in a racist society, it is not enough to be non-racist. We must be anti-racist. And that's what we all learn when we're on the programme. So next slide, please, and I'll hand over to Laura now.
Thank you, Anne. We have compassion in everything we do within Black Maternity Matters. I think with the participants, we have to be open and show compassion to reflect on ourselves and our beliefs, and recognise where our part as individuals or as part of a system can impact and perpetuate harmful practices that affect Black women. And as you can see from the quote, that it is recognising those soft and those light things that over time accumulate and can become something hard and heavy and potentially dangerous. And when we start to see that, it can be quite eye-opening for some people, and also difficult to recognise and to challenge that in yourself. So we did also need to have compassion towards ourselves to go on the journey to move forward. Next slide, please. So an overview of why Black Maternity Matters started. So I'm sure most people know about the statistics from the Embrace report, which there is a link to in the references, the resource list as well, which has been talking about for a long time that Black women still face significant disparities in maternal health outcomes. And there are various reports which show that Black women are experiencing higher mortality rates, stillbirth rates and traumatic births compared to their white counterparts. And we know that there is no biological reason for this to happen. The disparities are rooted in systemic bias, structural racism, and lack of racial literacy in healthcare services. So we at Black Maternity Matters see this as an urgent patient safety issue. So the collaborative was launched in 2020 to bring together anti-racist program that is steeped in anti-racist education and bringing about measurable actions through quality improvement transformation projects for perinatal staff and senior leaders across the west of England. Next slide, please. And we like to start with this quote, which is from Sona, who is one of the directors of Black Mothers Matter. And we start with this quote as a reminder to us at every opportunity possible to say that we are moving the onus for reducing health inequalities away from the people who are at risk of experiencing them and moving the onus onto those who are providing the care.
Next slide, please. Thank you. So there is so much evidence out there. Laura's already referred to the Embrace report. We've had a number of very large surveys of Black women's experience of maternity services. This one is a quote from the Birthrights report, Systemic Racism, Not Broken Bodies. And this was carried out in 2022. And the evidence that was gathered uncovered systemic racism in maternity care. And they surveyed a wide range of people, clinicians, obstetricians, midwives, lawyers, and over 300 Black and brown mixed ethnicity women and birthing people. And that's where they got their conclusion from. And this quote here is really is an example of many, many women's experiences of maternity services that is affected because of systemic racism, and really quite harrowing to read some of these stories, but very important that we do and we understand them and we start to think about how that impacts not only on people's experience of maternity care, but also the outcomes and how much they are going to come forward to us to care for them if they have these experiences or they've heard these experiences from their friends and neighbours. Next slide, please. There's such a lot of evidence. We've just put a few quotes and reports here. The Systemic Racism, Not Broken Bodies is there. There's also the 5X More report. I'm sure many of you will have heard of 5X More, and they did a study of Black women's experience of maternity services. And they've also done, they have sort of initiated a lot of parliamentary activity. And so really, if you haven't heard of 5X More, then they're a good one to pick up and follow to find out what they're doing. There's also a number of high profile cases where racism has affected care, and it's tragic that should result on occasion in a fatal outcome. And it's tragic for the family. It's also tragic for the staff as well. People don't set out to do harm. And that's why we need to learn so much from the things that we have become accustomed to not seeing, to open our eyes to see and to address those issues. In the summer, unfortunately, racism reared its ugly head on our streets. And that was really incredibly frightening. And I think for a lot of us that have been working in this area, it was a real shock as well, because I think you think that this would not happen. This would not happen in 2024 because we've moved on so much, we've learned so much. But people that we were working with who were afraid to go out of their front door, that's not what we want. So it's just a reminder of that and how we all need to think about how we can make those changes. On to the next slide, please. So our vision, and this, as Laura referred to, really this came out of a lot of conversations, and Black Mothers Matter were really kind of the inspiration for us to do something a little bit differently. We've had a lot of anti-racist training, we've had e-learning, we've had mandatory training, but it doesn't seem to have made a lasting impact on outcomes and experiences. And they really felt very strongly that if we were going to do anything around education, anti-racist education, that we made sure that it resulted in improvement. So the programme has at its heart equality improvement, as well as the education. So our vision to reduce racial disparities through an anti-racism approach, and to really try and have that impact that over a period of time will transform our organisations into anti-racist organisations. And it's also important to move the onus away from women and babies racialised as Black, and instead onto our systems that perpetuate this. And our focus is obviously what we want as an ideal outcome is a reduction in morbidity and mortality, and improved outcomes and experiences. Next slide, please. Now, the next slide is actually a video. So a short 4-minute video that will tell you a little bit more about Black Maternity Matters from a film we made last summer.
Black Maternity Matters is inspired by the vision that one day women racialised as Black will no longer be disproportionately in danger during pregnancy and the first year after birth of their babies. The statistics are grim. When I had my youngest child, I learned that as a Black woman giving birth in the UK, I was 5 times more likely to die during childbirth or up to 6 weeks after. The statistics continue to tell us that Black babies are more than twice as likely to be stillborn. We've developed an innovative 6-month anti-racism education and training programme designed specifically for staff working in maternity and neonatal services.
This is very innovative and quite revolutionary. Most people are used to getting a 30-minute e-learning module, and we're saying commit for 6 months of your life to go on a journey with us. It is a vast difference in approach, and it's a real immersive practice that we're providing people to step into.
The journey invites our participants to get introspective, to think about who they are, their belief systems, values, principles, their understanding of race and racism. Okay, so we start with building some foundations for them, okay, doing a bit of myth busting, especially through the lens of their profession.
Black Maternity Matters is making a difference on so many levels, but I think most significantly is the transformation of individuals and teams and organisations to really embrace and embed anti-racist practice and theory.
Everybody that comes on Black Maternity Matters programme, I'm doing it myself at the moment, I'm currently one of the participants, and it is a total transformation. You are learning so much, and you're unlearning a lot as well.
Unless we're actively anti-racist, we are passively allowing racism to continue in a systemic way. Definitely everyone in the NHS needs to have the opportunity to really examine what racism is, where it's happening and what their part in it is. Are you passively allowing it to happen, and how do you stop that? Because most of us are passively allowing it to happen, and I never thought I would say that.
What's been really beautiful about this work is we now have a cohort of leaders, and that's a beautiful opportunity because we have the people in the system who have the power to make institutional change. That's transformational because not only are we talking about what we do on the ground, we talk about policy, systems and guidance, and that's when we can really begin to see the ripple effects of our work. That's massive.
Because the power that they have, and when they get it, they really get it. and they can really make a difference. So it is very, very exciting, a little bit daunting because it feels as though it's getting very big. And I think that's one of the reasons that we've wanted to take our time, is because we've always wanted to keep the integrity of the programme and not to lose that.
Our ambition and goal for Black Maternity Matters is that it's in every NHS trust across the UK, and that it really is embedded, and the anti-racist practice and theory and the compassion and kindness and collaboration it brings is just part of how we work in the NHS.
We started our community groups bringing together black women in Bristol about 3 years ago, and when we started, when people would come to us and share their nervousness about leaning into NHS services, there wasn't much we could say. But now we're on phase 4 of Black Maternity Matters. I'm proud to say, with a bit more confidence, I can say actually there are lots of people that are working in the settings that you're going to be engaging in that are on this journey and are committing to doing better by you.
So there you saw Aisha and Katie, who deliver our training, and they're both highly experienced and have their own lived experience as well. And we also had a wider group of clinical stakeholders from the LMNS and the trusts that we work with to contribute to the educational content. And it's been an amazing experience to work with Katie and Aisha and have the benefit of their skills in delivering this education. And Black Mothers Matter, you saw there Sona, and I talked about the inspiration that they gave us for Black Maternity Matters. And they are our key community stakeholder, and if ever this was replicated in other parts of the country, I think that's the first thing that you have to do, is to find your community so that you can involve them in the development of the programme. We've coordinated the programme from Health Innovation West of England, and we've worked very closely with our local maternity and neonatal systems and of course our NHS trusts. Next slide, please. Collaboration I've already talked about. We do involve everybody wherever we can in sharing and celebrating and learning as well. There's still an awful lot for us to learn, but it has really been quite successful in terms of bringing people together from all different parts of the system and outside of the NHS as well, where we've sought expertise to be able to provide this programme. Next slide, please. Over to you, Laura.
Thank you. So the Black Maternity Matters model. So it's a 6-month programme which consists of once a month having a face-to-face in-person session, followed by the next month will be a virtual book club. And all of this is grounded in anti-racism theory and practice with that perinatal context. For every cohort and every trust will have a maternity champion who is there to support and to lead in the sessions and outside of the sessions. And throughout the whole programme, we've got quality improvement coaching available, so that right from the beginning we can start to think about how we can turn the learning that we've done into measurable changes and measurable outcomes. So we start thinking about the projects throughout. Very exciting that after some evaluations we were able to develop a senior leaders cohort as well, which had senior leaders such as chief executives, chief nursing and midwifery officer from across the southwest, who have been able to take part in a separate anti-racism journey, but also across a 6-month period with the same with a very similar format. And that felt really important to do so that we can make sure that the changes are happening from the top down as well as the bottom up, and making sure that we've got buy-in across the board so that we're making changes from as many different angles as possible. And Black Maternity Matters really feels like a community in a way, because once you've you've started on that journey, it doesn't really end at the 6 months. You're kind of part of the community for life, really. We have created specialist interest groups which links people together from across the region who are doing similar quality improvement projects, so that we're all working together and sharing that learning. We have continued outside of the 6 months to have more discussions and having sessions on trauma-informed care, which was by another leading expert, which is a really fantastic session that I was able to attend on trauma-informed care. And we had another really important one was that we did a Brave Space sessions, which was for professionals who are racialized as Black to have a separate sort of restorative session, which to bring people together to connect, because we recognize that talking about racial trauma has an extra layer of difficulty if you are also somebody who potentially has experienced racial trauma yourself. And so over the course, we've had at least about 200 people across the Southwest who have joined the Black Maternity Matters community. Next slide, please. And here are just some of the photos from some of the cohorts that we've had so far. Next slide, please. And what makes Black Maternity Matters unique is that it really is more than a training program, because right from the beginning, we're focusing on how can we translate this learning into measurable action. And we know that organizations having their staff committing to a 6-month program is a really big ask and quite a brave thing to do for really stretched maternity services. And we're really grateful to be able to do that. But we know that having a 6-month program, which is a sustained period of learning, is really important to sort of embed that learning that we're doing and to go on that journey, because you can then take what you've learned in those sessions, go back to your place of work and start to see how this impacts on you, or see where the biases are in your place of work. And then you've got the opportunity to then come back to the people in your cohort to talk about it. So it's that kind of sustained, embedded learning that is really important to kind of continue the journey. And it just gives people the opportunity to come back and talk to the participants. And it's the compassion, courage, and collaboration that keeps the momentum of the project going as the participation increases over the cohorts. And the model is designed for the long term, to be able to grow and to be able to spread as far and wide as possible as the projects continue. Next slide, please.
So just to show you a map so you can see geographically the area that we've been covering. We started in the Bristol areas, and that's where we've had the most cohorts go through. So that's why you can see the larger numbers there. And we've obviously also had a number of participants go throughout the other parts of the west of England, and the little 14 sitting there on its own, that's the number of people that have been outside of our west of England, and that's been growing all the time, and particularly with the Senior Leaders Programme. Next slide, please.
So these are some quotes from people who have from past participants. I won't read them all out, but it just really shows that picking out some of the areas was that the course should be mandatory for everybody working in perinatal services, that Black Maternity Matters is a journey and a period of continuous learning. Next slide, please. So just some of the impacts that the Black Maternity Matters has had. So some examples of the quality improvement projects that have come out of it. So some of is examples of direct patient care. So whether that is introducing silk hair bonnets in theatres for anybody that has afro, curly or coily hair, to be able to protect the hair, which we know is very important when going into theatre, having plasters, having black and brown plasters for different skin tones, educational materials showing wounds with different skin tones, so that we can start to recognize where the biases are and those differences, so that we can continue to learn. We've had people doing research, looking at local data and looking at health outcomes, research into the bias in oxygen SATs probes, and lots around education and trying to continue and spread that learning. So whether it's having the language to speak about anti-racism confidently with colleagues, and embedding anti-racism into all of our education materials and study days. This is so the learning has kind of spread far and wide, and so this is a poem that was written by a consultant neonatologist who was in one of the cohorts in Bristol, and she wrote this as sort of a reflective piece from her time on the course, which has then been published. So it's very nice, from Beth Osmond. Next slide. Another project that we've been doing is very much focusing on continuing that community collaboration. So we've set up an early pregnancy support clinic, which is very kindly hosted in an already running organisation by Refugee Women of Bristol. So we go every week, and we're there to support people with some of the barriers that can come up in accessing healthcare. For example, the booking forms that are online are only in English, which is a massive barrier if you aren't able to read or write in English. So we are there to help people with filling out the forms, giving that early pregnancy advice, in helping people to navigate the services, and just sort of working out where they're bridging the gaps that maybe are coming up as barriers for people women accessing maternity care. Next slide. And there's been collaboration with more organisations, for example, Black Mothers Matter. They now run a weekly antenatal group, which is run by Black women for Black women, and it's a really kind of great space to build community. And we have a midwife goes to that group every week as well, to kind of continue that collaboration and be able to have a familiar face and continuity when women come in to have their babies. We've also been able to work with Reframe Photography Project, which is around recognising the biases in textbooks and trying to build a library of photos so that we can recognise different conditions in different skin tones. Next slide.
thank you. So we have, throughout the whole, every cohort, we have been evaluating through a pre-course questionnaire and a post-course. It's really, we've been evaluating the impact of the training on the participants. We are keen now to move into more looking at the impact on outcomes and experience. That's something that is in our forward thinking. This is very much from the perinatal cohorts that have undertaken the course. Once we had started, and we started with maternity support workers and midwives, we then realised we needed to bring in obstetricians, neonatologists, the wider team. And then since then, we've started the senior leaders, as Laura has referred to. And some of the comments we've had have been that people have found it life-changing. And that has had a personal impact, and a lot of the transformation that we've seen happens personally, and then people taking into the workplace and into that conversation that they have with the woman in front of them. And the senior leaders has really opened our eyes to the power of somebody who's leading an organisation. One of our organisations, the chief executive, who undertook the training, just wants everybody in her trust to do it, and they've now written an anti-racist policy, and that's pretty amazing stuff. I'm conscious that we're probably starting to run out of our time, so I'll pass back to Laura now. Do you want your next slide, Laura?
Yeah. So I'll just talk a bit about the role of the maternity champion, which was quite central in being able to, in the Black Maternity Matters. So I have been midwife for 10 years, as Sue said, and I was maternity champion in the first pilot cohort of Black Maternity Matters, and I always joke that I enjoyed it so much that I came back and did it twice, and I was also one of the maternity champions on the second cohort for Bristol, North Somerset and South Gloucester. Next slide, please. So during the sessions, we are very much participants as well. We are going on the journey alongside all of the other people in our cohort. The role is it's a voluntary position which I applied for, and it was to say that you have either knowledge of some prior knowledge of anti-racism, or having lived experience from the perspective of race, just so that you can kind of be able to support other people in the sessions. So we were there to give some of the clinical context and give examples in practice, and having that slightly more knowledge or lived experience to be able to take the lead in some of the difficult conversations to support Katie and Aisha whilst they're doing the teaching. And you're there as an observant as well of all the participants to kind of help people along their journey. And if you see somebody who's maybe feeling a bit uncomfortable, to kind of, that's the person you go and sit next to, so you can help them to feel comfortable and to engage in the discussions. Next slide, please. And then outside of the sessions, the champion is there to help to continue to build the community. So we set up WhatsApp groups for the cohort. So just to check in at the end of a session if it was particularly heavy, just to see how people are feeling, just general kind of admin and reminders of what for the next session. We were continuing that learning by sharing news articles and relevant things, so we can continue that learning. And we also, I guess, just championing the project as much as possible with everybody that would listen, really. So we made contact with Unity Sexual Health, which is in Bristol, and they had their own sort of version of Black Maternity Matters called Black Health Matters, which was part of one of the phases of their one of their health inequalities programs. So we've kind of been able to spread the knowledge and that learning outside of maternity care, but it's all still very relevant in terms of reducing health inequalities. Next slide, please. So overall, doing the program, as Anna said, it really is life-changing in so many ways in your personal life and your professional life, in kind of having so much more of an understanding of yourself and the way that we interact with people. And it's really enjoyable to go on that journey with people. Having the champions in each unit just helps to cement that and to continue to implement local changes, and building a community. It really is a community that once you've started on that journey, you don't really ever kind of leave the Black Maternity Matters community. Next slide.
So the next chapter, I won't read out everything that's on there. I think you've got the gist probably of what our ambition is. We will continue to grow our community. We've got over 200 in our community now, and interest from other areas. We're going to be running number of other programs, and another senior leaders program in February. We'll continue with the support for the Quality Improvement Collaborative, and what we found is we're picking up on things that people are doing in other parts of the country. We're getting people together to share their good ideas and how they've managed to really affect some transformation as well. So that our goal would be for everybody to be able to access the Black Maternity Matters methodology, that taking time to reflect, time to learn in between each of the sessions, and then supported with how do you do something when you go back into practice, and how do you have the right environment, and by training our leaders as well, that will obviously help and support the staff. So that's last slide is just a little QR code for you to find out more and to keep in touch with us. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. I think gosh, I think having been to many diversity sessions which just were like tick box activities, this is such a different model. And it's so fantastic, and I absolutely think everybody should do it. Really, we've got lots of questions, which is lovely. So if you're watching and you haven't dared put a question in, now's the time to put a question in to our lovely Anne and Laura. And I suspect you'll know some of the questions, because I suspect people who asked this before. Rachel Pinnock, hi Rachel, says, how do you access the course? And of course, you've highlighted some of that.
So at the moment, we've been offering it to our organisations in the west of England. We have, where we've had spaces, been able to go a bit wider than that, so the southwest. In terms of senior leaders, that's obviously we've spread that out a bit more. So at the moment, it would need to be something that your local organisations were happy to support. I think, I would love to say, yes, it's open to everybody to access, but the reality is that you want something that is in your area. So the best way to get on a similar program is to have one similar in your own area. But contact us if you want to talk about that, because we might be able to put you in touch with somebody that's thinking about setting up a new program. We don't know of anybody at the moment, but that is something that ultimately we would want. So the short answer is, if you live in the west of England and the southwest, then it will be something that you'll be able to apply for easily. If you're outside of that area, we'd need to have a conversation.
So hopefully people are kind of watching this and thinking, well, we could do that in our region. Yeah. That would work. Yeah. Okay, lovely. Thank you. We need to just replicate you. That's all. Easy. It's like train the trainer, sort of. No, it's very simplistic. And Diane Garland, hi Diane, says, is this only available to NHS? Because we have many midwives outside the NHS, and of course our wonderful doulas.
Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. It has been largely NHS because it's the NHS organisations that are funding it, and we're an NHS organisation, so I include us in that. So it's funded by Health Innovation Network and by the trust supporting their staff to attend. But if somebody wanted to apply who wasn't employed by the NHS, again, contact us, and we can have that conversation. It may be that it wouldn't be fully funded. That would be. I mean, we're learning all the time, you know. So we've done a lot of it. We've done sort of as a pilot, so we sort of pump primed a lot. But there's no reason why it really, we want it to go to people anybody who's working in an area who is providing perinatal care. So that could be in or outside the NHS. I mean, our anti-racist educators are outside the NHS, so they're business women, you know. So we have that model. So again, I think it'd be something probably better to contact us about.
Well, I guess an underpinning issue is that this is an investment, really, because if anybody thinks about the cost, the human cost and the resource cost of the perinatal morbidity or mortality that's suffered by Black and brown women, and how you could reduce that has to be worth it, apart from anything.
Absolutely.
I've just got a comment now, and this is from Joyce Adu Amankwa. Hi, Joyce. And she says, Anne and Laura, thank you for the great work you're doing. My passion is service improvement for sickle cell and thalassemia in pregnancy, which is mostly for Black and Asian conditions. I'd like to get in touch with you, possibly. So I think we can. I think you've got your emails somewhere on there anyway that you're available.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's you, Joyce, sorted. And
we have a Black Maternity Matters email box, so yeah, we can. Yeah, that's the best way to get in touch with us. Yeah.
Though I suspect after this evening, that might be a little bit full for a few days.
Yes.
So be patient. You will get an answer. Don't worry. And Rachel Hunter, hi Rachel, says, Anne and Laura, thank you for sharing your work. Do you know if the education programme is going to be available in other regions? Which I think we've answered that one, Rachel.
I would stress that we feel Black Maternity Matters is a whole programme. It's the education programme, it's the support, it's the community, it's the quality improvement. It wouldn't be Black Maternity Matters if it was the education programme on its own. It needs that support. It needs that buy-in. And so that's that. When I say about keeping the integrity of the programme, it's about keeping it together like that. So if that makes sense.
Makes absolute sense. I mean, I was thinking you almost, as an educator, I was thinking, what about the universities and the teaching of student midwives and students? Because it's kind of, but as you were talking about practitioners having this immense learning, I was thinking, well, if they're there, those students are being exposed to real life anti-racism, which is what we all want to see. Sorry, Laura, you were going to say something.
But I think we've had university lecturers on the senior leaders course, and we have had a student midwife who's done the course as well. So yeah, we are trying to capture as many people as part of perinatal care.
We've definitely got in. We are speaking to the universities about the students, and we have done some sessions for them as well. Yeah, so it's very important. You're absolutely
I think everybody who's watching wants to do this programme, basically, very simply. Okay, I've got a couple more questions. So we've had Joyce, and we've got Jo D'Agustin. Hi, Jo. And she says, fantastic briefing, excellent work. I hope your replication efforts are successful. What might the barriers be? And then Jo says, thank you.
I suppose you've got to be honest and say cost, because if somebody's thinking, I need an anti-racist education programme, I could do this Black Maternity Matters, which is 6 months, or I could do an e-learning, which is shorter, or a day or 2 days. Then, you know, that's going to perhaps have that influence, that you know, they're going to be constrained by financial availability. I think this is where we really want to get into the showing the impact, because that's what, I mean, it is, you know, you think of it, if you think of it purely as a patient safety issue, that this group of people that we care for have consistently had poorer outcomes, you know, that would be something we should be really focusing all our, you know, resources on. So I think it would be that, and also I think you have to have that mindset that you're going to include, you're going to be inclusive, and you're going to say, I don't know about this, I need to get the expert in on this bit of the programme. It really, you know, having Black Mothers Matter in Bristol was just a gift for us, really, because they were already there doing the work with women, and so we've kind of just now involved making sure that staff have that understanding. So I think time and money would be the things that would be difficult for people, but you know,
which are always a problem, but worth the investment.
Yes.
Laura, you wanted to say something?
I think that we're trying to keep is, like we've said, the integrity, and to be able to replicate it, we would need to have organizations like Black Mothers Matter in every region to be able to make it a community, and not kind of, it's not, like we said, just not the education by itself, it's all of the different aspects come together that make it so special. And so I think to be able to replicate it, you would need to be able to replicate the whole project, the whole collaborative, to be able to do it.
Yeah, and they'll be different. I mean, it'd be different in every area. Every area will have, there will be, it's just about finding your people, really. They may not be as organised as Black Mothers Matter have become, but they will be there. They will be there, and they will have their stories, and they will know women who have stories as well. So it's about kind of, I suppose, helping to...
I guess that, I mean, in some places, those women may have felt maybe at that point of feeling, well, no, he's listening to me anyway. That's, I guess that's what we need to address, is and that's what Black mums kind of came up with, isn't it? They actually said, you know, listen to us.
Yeah.
Whereas I suspect there are in some areas some women who have just kind of given up on us. And and I think you said it, Anne, when you presented in Bath, didn't you say it's not their problem?
That's right. Yeah. The onus should not be on them. It's our problem, and it's because we just haven't seen it. We just, many of us we've grown up with white privilege, and so we don't see these issues. You know, it doesn't affect us. Everything's fine. Everything's fine from my point of view. But it's just when you start to realise that it's not, and you look at it from a different point of view. But it is us. We need to be educated. We need to learn.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to just squeeze in a couple. I've got a comment from Jill Phillips. Hi, Jill.
Hi, Jill.
Yes, Jill. And she says she's excited how this fits with Whose Steps work, because that's, of course, very innovative work as well, and very changing to people. I know, and changing to services, actually. We're seeing how it fits with Whose Shoes work we've done around this sensitive topic, using bespoke material, which is not part of our main maternity package and only available to highly experienced users of Whose Shoes QI methodology. So thanks for that, Jill. Fabulous. And then we've got Ikram Hassan, hi Ikram, who says, is anyone aware of anything similar to the Black Maternity Matters programme in the Greater Manchester area?
I'm not aware of anything that's quite like Black Maternity Matters, but they are doing some fantastic work in Manchester. They've just been sharing with us the work they've been doing with their local community to produce patient information for women racialised as Black and brown, and that's the sort of thing where, you know, if you're trying to ensure that you're communicating, is really important. So I'm not, as I say, I'm not aware of that they have anything that is like Black Maternity Matters, but there is some great work going on there, and the Health Innovation Network in Greater Manchester would be able to put them in touch with those people that are working on that. It's fabulous work.
Okay, well, there's your answer, Ikram. Okay, and Nikki wants to see the QR code. We'll put that up after the session, Nikki, so you can get that QR code. And Tina Woodford wants to know how much the course costs.
Well,
not to I mean, I'm assuming it's not necessarily to individuals. That would be.
That's the thing. We haven't, you know, at the moment, as I say, we've been, there's been resources coming from the Health Innovation Network, the trusts and organisations. They're obviously, when releasing staff, they're picking up the staff backfill, and the local maternity and neonatal systems have been putting funding towards funding the champions to have the time, and also for the expert input. So it would depend on, I mean, at the moment, we're probably not, I wouldn't want to give a figure because it's probably not realistic. But if yeah, we're getting closer to having a figure on that, I think.
I'm not sure if Tina means how much can you buy it yourself? I mean, could I book in for it? I'm not sure. I'd have to check up with Tina.
Yeah, I think if you're out of area, you just, it would be, you need to contact us. But as I say, at the moment, we haven't been widely advertising it out of area.
I think you've probably got enough to do at the moment, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay, we've got Yvonne Simpson wanted to know if it was available to student midwives. And I think you've answered that because you've had a student midwife on the program.
We have, and we would, as Laura said, and we would definitely be happy to have student midwives. It was great, and also, you know, those conversations with the local universities.
Because as these things happen, that it cascades to students within the program, and I'm very conscious that the curriculum is always really full for student midwives.
Our so Nushan, who works on the program as well, and Sona and Aisha from Black Mothers Matter go in regularly to talk to the university, the student midwives at the local university.
Yeah, they're well cared for. Okay, we've got Sharon Gibbs. Hi, Sharon. I'm an EDI midwife lead and would like to discuss the anti-racist policy outside this meeting. So you need to just contact Anne and Laura for that.
For you, Laura.
Yeah, absolutely. Please get in contact.
And then I think that mostly those I'm just checking we've dealt with all the questions. I'm very conscious of the time, and as I always say, this hour in the week is always the quickest hour in the week. But I think what I should do is say to both Anne and Laura, huge thank you for the work you're doing, and also for coming to share the work. And it would be nice to be able to think of coming back to share some of the outcome work, because that is also when it gets very exciting. But I'm also going to give you both the last word, or a last word before I just wrap up. So, Anne, if you could change one thing, or to get one thing done with this program.
Oh gosh. I almost need a minute to think about this. That's it. I mean, you know, if I could change one thing, I would start educating in schools. That would definitely be, you know, that's where we need to start. And so from you know, from a maternity services point of view, start that education for medical students and midwifery students as well, and make something like this accessible to everybody to do. Yeah, that's more than one thing, isn't it?
Yes, no, that's quite a big thing. And before last summer, I'd have said, we're on a route and we're okay, but not at all. But Laura, you have a last word to say. Anything you'd like to say about bringing forth the programme?
I think on a kind of direct impact, I think the day-to-day for me as a clinical midwife is that it's really gives you more tools to be able to listen and for people to feel heard and valued. And I think that is on the sort of day-to-day conversations and interactions that we're having with Black and brown women. It's giving people the space to feel heard and to feel valued. I think that's what the main thing that I've taken from this.
And that's beautiful words to share us. Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you, Anne. Now I've got to wrap up now because this is the shortest hour in the week, shorter than any other hour in the week at all. So I say a big thanks to Anne and Laura for joining us and providing all this information and all the resources and being available. Presumably there's going to be a lot of emails rushing around to both Anne and Laura for their expertise. And for those of you in influential positions, maybe you can think about if there's somewhere in your area that could link up and start sharing some of this work and using maybe Anne and Laura's consultants, or the whole program is a consultancy in a way. Also, thank you to Angelo, who's looking after the filming of this, and we'll make sure that it's available at 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday and next Tuesday in the newsletter, so you can share with your colleagues. And please do share with your colleagues, because this is such an important issue. This is moving and from anti-racism really to more than just having a tick box. It's to real change in our service, and really important. We've been letting these women down and the babies, and we don't need to feel guilty about it, but we do need to take action on it. So that's been fantastic. Thanks to Paul for feeding the question. I should have said at the start, that's why I keep looking away at my other screen. That's where the questions are all coming through. Thank you to all of you for the questions you've brought up and the comments you made. Really useful and really good. And as always, you're all fantastic as always. Now, next week, we're going to be looking another facet of policy. We're looking at enhancing quality and safe maternity services in Northern Ireland. And we have Professor Mary Renfrew joining us then. So in the meantime, in between maybe registering for the festival in London on the 11th of February, in the meantime, take care of yourselves, and we'll be here next week, same place, same time. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure to be here, and I always try as hard as I can to support this excellent platform that's so flexible, that's responsive, that's contemporary, that's in people's homes, in people's pockets, and in people's hands, wherever they happen to be.
I'm Nicole Brown. I'm a proud midwife, and I'm proud to be supporting the Maternity and Midwifery Forum, who have helped me to grow, and for creating wonderful professional digital and online resources for midwives across the globe. The Maternity and Midwifery Forum ran their programs free and online all through COVID. Now we want to grow the catalogue, spread it worldwide and keep it free to use for students and staff. To do this, we have launched a fundraising appeal to help keep all of the 8 wonderful maternity and midwifery festivals free. Keep the weekly Maternity and Midwifery Hour and the weekly newsletters free to midwives and maternity staff. You regularly tell us how much you value these free resources, so do give what you can.